Hi there. Well, it's March the 14th, Pi Day 2021. So 314 is Pi Day. And it's kind of a strange day. It's the typical March day in Boston. Maybe almost 0 degrees freezing and it's snowing everywhere. If you can see how much snow there is. There are little ducks at the bottom of the lake. The lake is usually kind of drained in the winter time. There's not much going on in there. But the famous children's book called Make Way for Ducklings takes place right here. Anyway, about 3 days ago was my son Benjamin's birthday. And he turned 4 years old. And the other thing that I didn't figure out until a couple of days ago is that his birthday is also the day that the COVID pandemic really hit the United States on March the 11th, 2020. If we go back to the very first video, I was kind of yammering on about it maybe a couple of days before it happened. So I wouldn't say the pandemic hit the United States that day, but the big response with all the lockdowns, everybody suddenly going to remote work and all that kind of stuff, that was definitely the case. March the 11th, 2020. And the reason I found out about this is because Joe Biden, finally a new president, thank goodness for that, he delivered an evening address to the nation to mark the occasion of 1 year since the pandemic really started ripping everything apart. But anyway, what are the numbers now? Man, I don't even check anymore. I probably should have stopped checking a long time ago, but basically 26 million cases worldwide, about 2.5 million, 3 million in the United States, and about 550,000 people dead. Now, two things from that. My friend has talked about how not all the deaths are necessarily because of COVID. I get that, totally get that. But he also says, there are car accidents, accident deaths, which they check off as a COVID death, which is a yes and no. Kind of windy here. Kind of yes and no. But the yes part of it is yes, the victim had COVID, but no, COVID didn't cause the death. However, if you really want to get into it, you can talk about AIDS. AIDS is a immunity disorder. So if you have AIDS and then you get a cold and you die from the cold, the death is caused by the cold, but age is a factor. That's sort of how COVID happens. I don't think anybody 100% dies from COVID. Some people do, but most of the time they're all really somewhat unhealthy one way or another, or they have a vulnerability, a comorbidity, they call it, of some kind. Anyway, that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is the vaccine is well on the way. I don't know if Biden has anything to do with that. He does have something to do with that. We are now at about maybe 15% of the American adult population have had at least one shot. Most of the vaccinations have required 2 shots. One on the first one, and then the second one 2 weeks later. So, the best thing I heard about the vaccine is it's called the Fauci Ouchie, which means Fauci is the guy who's been leading the whole charge against COVID. But anyway, what Biden has to do with this, what I learned pretty quickly is that the Trump administration didn't really have a plan in place to distribute the vaccine. The approach is that sort of But the extent of their planning was basically get it to the stage, but they didn't really have a logistical plan in place on how to distribute it to each of the states. Once Biden took over, he was surprised to see that. And I guess under his administration, he sort of took over and said, let's get this thing in the hands of the states as quickly as possible. And now he says basically there's going to be enough vaccination for every American by May. He's also ordered every state to make vaccines available to everybody by May the 1st. Basically intensifying the urgency of getting people vaccinated. Feeling a little bit hopeful about this actually. Finally, for the first time, feeling like there's some kind of progress. Anyway, I think I'm going to walk back to the car. It's a bit cold and windy. Anyway, so the best part of the vaccine is that if you've been vaccinated against COVID and someone else you know has been vaccinated against COVID, you can both basically hang out together without wearing masks, without social distancing. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is bloody fantastic. I don't want to get too hopeful, but I do feel a little hopeful. Anyway, it may feel actually like a realistic expectation that we should go back to normal by summertime. It's looking pretty good. The only obstacle now, the only impediment right now is the Trump people who like him, people who have sort of politicized this whole vaccination thing. It's a bit ridiculous, I think, but people who politicized it to the point where if you are a Republican, you're less likely to take a vaccination than if you are a Democrat. If you're right-wing, if you're one of those extreme right-wing idiots, you're not going to get a vaccination, or you're more likely not to get one. Which is pretty fucking stupid, if you ask me. But some people might say that it's Darwinism in action. If people want to take that risk and be an idiot, a COVID-idiot, as they call it, more power to them. That's the way it's going to be. But anyway, thank God it's not so windy anymore. But it's still all cold. It's not that nice out for a walk. But anyway, I'm just making some distance from people because social distancing is important still. Anyway, I want to close this out, but first I want to show you guys something. Remember when I said that Warrior is the place where the book Make Way for Ducklings took place? Well, yes, it happened at this place at the Boston Public Gardens. And as I'm walking to that place, then I want to show you, what else happened here. This is also the spot with the famous scene starring Robin Williams and Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, when they're sitting there at the public gardens, and Matt Damon says, "What is this? A taster's choice moment between men?" And then Robin Williams goes into this beautiful speech about life. And then he says, "Your move, kid." So, look that up on YouTube if you can. Anyway, moving on. So, I know this part doesn't really have anything to do with COVID, but it's one of the things that kind of keep us alive. going to show you this in all setup here. This, you see this? This are the bronze making way for duckling statue. This stuff is pretty cool. And loosely related to this, the person who wrote that book, Make Way for Ducklings, also wrote a book called Blueberries for Saul. Blueberries for Saul is one of Benjamin's favorite books. He absolutely loves it. And you know what? I think I like it better than Make Way for Ducklings, because it's just a more beautiful story about a mommy bear and a baby bear, and little Saul and her mommy went to go picking blueberries to make jam for the winter time. Anyway, the sun's coming out. That's Boston view. Anyway, I'm gonna sign off. I'll make another video diary in a few days from now. Ciao.